Skylar was not like the other children of Ethelberg's affluent West End. While they were busy growing up, Skylar seemed to be simply stretching. By the time she was 13, she stood nearly 6 feet tall, an imposing figure with an almost impossibly long, graceful stride. She had been adopted by her wealthy, benevolent guardian, Mr. Sterling, after a difficult childhood. His sprawling estate became her refuge, but not her sanctuary. Mr. Sterling's biological son, Caleb, was 6 years her senior and consumed by a brittle jealousy. Caleb saw Skylar's rapid growth not as a sign of health, but as an intrusion. He called her names that echo through the marble hallways: the tower, stilt walker, the moving shadow. Anything to make her feel alienated, Skylar tried to shrink herself, to move with a hesitant gait that belied her natural grace. But the stares and whispers followed her everywhere. One afternoon, during a mandatory family outing, Caleb deliberately pushed her during a photo opportunity, only to lose his footing and fall. Skylar, without even thinking, took 3 enormous steps to steady herself and ended up half a block away. The unexpected velocity of her movement caught the attention of a passing coach. "Young lady," the coach had said, eyes wide with astonishment, "that was not running. That was flying." That day, Skylar stopped trying to hide her height. She joined the school's track team, and soon her long legs, once the source of her deepest shame, became her most powerful weapon. She didn't run. She consumed the ground beneath her in massive, effortless bounds, shattering every local record. Mr. Sterling beamed with pride, showering her with encouragement and gifts. This success was a poisoned apple to Caleb. He spiraled into resentment, dropping out of university and racking up enormous debts, further widening the gulf between himself and his father. One crisp autumn morning, Mr. Sterling announced he had to travel overseas for an urgent business matter. A week later, his secretary, a nervous man named Alistair, called with grim news Mr. Sterling had contracted a rare, highly contagious tropical fever and was in quarantine at a facility abroad. No one, not even Skylar, was permitted to visit. Skylar was heartbroken, but her attention was soon diverted by a new, unsettling development. Caleb returned to the estate, and with him was a woman named Vera. Vera was striking, effortlessly chic, and Caleb introduced her as his fiancé, the daughter of a prominent European family. But there was a coldness in Vera's eyes that Skylar found profoundly disturbing. Vera immediately took over the estate, demanding that Skylar move from her spacious, sunlit room into a cramped guest suite. "You won't be needing all this space now that you'll be traveling for track events," Vera had said, her voice dripping with false concern. "Caleb and I need to start our life here." Skylar felt the familiar sting of displacement, but something held her back from fighting. She noticed the way Caleb treated Vera, not with love, but with a desperate, clinging need, and the way Vera's eyes constantly scanned the room, as if searching for something. Skylar knew Caleb was a petty thief and a liar, but this felt bigger, more professional. One evening, Skylar overheard a heated conversation emanating from Caleb's study. It wasn't about love or wedding plans. It was about money, documents, and a signature. The whispers were too faint to make out, but the tone was clear. Coercion. Caleb was in trouble, and Vera was not who she claimed to be. The next day, Skylar used her speed and stealth, the same skills honed on the track, to quietly slip through the estate grounds. She followed Vera's car to a small private clinic on the city's outskirts. Peering through a window, Skylar saw Vera rush into a room, where a fragile, elderly woman lay connected to monitors. "I'm so close, Mother," Vera whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Caleb has the papers. Soon we'll have the money he stole and you can get the surgery." Vera was not a wealthy fiancé. She was a woman named Evelyn, and she was seeking justice. Caleb, in his years of reckless spending and con artistry, had defrauded her family. Stealing the funds meant for her mother's life-saving operation, Evelyn had created the persona of Vera to infiltrate Caleb's life, believing if she helped him achieve a bigger financial score, perhaps by getting Mr. Sterling's signature, she can then expose him and recover her family's losses. Skylar retreated to the estate, her mind reeling. Caleb hadn't just been mean. He was a criminal. He hadn't just distanced his father, he had kidnapped him. Just then, Skylar heard a commotion. Mr. Sterling was back. He looked frail, but was standing and shouting at Caleb, who looked pale with panic. Mr. Sterling revealed the truth. His overseas trip had been normal, but on his return, Caleb and Alistair had seized him, fabricating the contagious fever story and holding him in a remote annex of the estate to force him to sign over his power of attorney. Caleb, realizing the game was up, lunged for a briefcase containing a stack of finalized transfer documents. "You gave everything to her," he screamed, pointing at Skylar. "I deserved this." As Mr. Sterling collapsed in shock, Caleb bolted for the door. Skylar reacted instantly. She had no time to think, only to run. The heavy mahogany door, the long hallway, the sprawling driveway, it all blurred into a single obstacle course. Her years of training took over. In 3 massive strides, she was out the door. Caleb was a head start, but he was slow. Weighed down by his panic and the heavy briefcase, Skylar was a blur of momentum, her long legs devouring the distance between them. She wasn't just running for a medal now. She was running for justice, for her guardian, and for the redemption of her own story. She rounded the corner of the garden wall and saw Caleb struggling to get into his waiting car. With a final explosive surge of speed, Skylar intercepted him, not by tackling him, but by simply placing her foot a millimeter in front of the car door before he could close it. The impact of the heavy door hitting her solid frame stopped Caleb cold. He dropped the briefcase and looked at his cousin, the girl he had always mocked, standing over him, her breath steady, her eyes fierce. "You can't outrun me, Caleb," she stated, her voice calm despite the adrenaline rush. "Not anymore." The police arrived moments later. Called by Evelyn, Caleb was arrested for kidnapping and attempted fraud. Evelyn, after giving her statement, faced a minor penalty for her role in the deception, but was cleared of any serious charges due to her cooperation and motivation. Mr. Sterling, safe and recovering, provided Evelyn with the necessary funds for her mother's surgery. Compensating her family for Caleb's past crimes, Skylar watched the squad car drive away, her chest heaving not from exhaustion, but from the realization that her gift, the thing that made her different, had ultimately made her powerful. She was no longer the tower or stilt walker. She was Skylar, the fastest girl in the world, whose long legs had not only broken records, but had also brought a family's truth to light. Embracing her height and her unique velocity, she looked forward, knowing the track was now open for her global journey, but had also brought a family's truth to light. Embracing her height and her unique velocity, she looked forward, knowing the track was now open for her global journey,